I am joined here in the speaker studio with my next guest, Head of Business Innovation for AstraZeneca UK. A very warm welcome to Lucy George.
Hello, good afternoon. Nice to see you.
And you. So another one of our speakers today. Your session's not happened yet. It's going to be happening very shortly later on this afternoon. And I believe it's going to be partnering with purpose, evidence-based and innovative approaches to transforming care. Tell us a little bit about what people can expect from that session.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I'm really looking forward to the session. We've got 3 different speakers who are going to be joining us, and they're our collaborators on some of the partnerships that we've already worked on together with the NHS, so across cancer and in primary care diabetes. We have Matt Everson, who's from Manchester, just local, we've worked together on a lung cancer project to really accelerate diagnosis of lung cancer. And then Matt Davis from Bedford and Wakas Tahir, who's in West Yorkshire, who have both worked to really optimise treatment of diabetes. So those are 2 really exciting case studies that we're going to use to prove the point that actually we all have the same mission of increasing the optimization of treatment, increasing the acceleration of diagnosis of all diseases, and working together to make sure that we get better outcomes for patients.
Fantastic. And in terms of the outcomes of that session, like what do you hope people are going to take away from it? What do you think they're going to implement? What would be the ideal from your perspective, from an audience sort of following that session?
Yeah, I think we want people to be inspired. We want people to go away and be curious as to how they can do these kind of projects themselves. It may not be exactly the same piece of work, but I think the idea that whatever your problem is to be solved, we can work together to create solutions and find a way forward together, I think is really the overarching theme. We certainly want to work more in partnership with the NHS to address all of the important issues that we've heard about today. And so I think that's really the key thing is to make sure that everybody knows that that's our purpose.
It's really interesting because I've been speaking to a lot of people today, and we're talking about community and building relationships. I think that purpose element, talk us a bit more about that in terms of how do you think people can apply sort of purpose to the people they meet, the connections they make over the next couple of days.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And actually one of the things that I really value about coming to NHS Confed is the diverse mix of people and attendees, companies who are here, and everyone has a slightly different perspective on what they're trying to achieve. But then you realise we all do have the same purpose, which is to work together to solve the problems, find the opportunities to transform care together. And actually when you put that at the forefront, those partnerships and those ways of working become easier. And even though we all might have our own individual goals, actually together most of the time we're trying to achieve the same thing, and that's certainly what drives me, and I know at AstraZeneca that's what fuels our purpose across all of our different therapy areas, and you see that actually across the board here at Confed, which makes it a really energising meeting.
Lovely, fantastic. And are there any examples of good practice or innovation in the NHS that you want more people to know about?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you. And there's so many. I think that's the thing. We've actually got some examples. So in heart failure, the Opera project, which actually started up in Glasgow, where we have an MOU, a partnership with the Glasgow team up there, is really looking to accelerate heart failure pathways, and that's now been rolled out across the country, alongside the Sentinel project, which is to optimise asthma care. And those are 2 of many, many other examples. We have over 600 partnerships in AstraZeneca with the NHS. Amongst the other industry partners and other organisations here, there's probably thousands. So picking out the examples is really easy actually to do. I think then maybe the next question that we try to answer is then how do you scale those sufficiently and make sure that they are scaled in a sustainable and equitable way?
Well, that was literally going to be my next question. How can we ensure that when we do the innovations in healthcare, we make them accessible and in an equitable way, basically keep in line with the ethos of the NHS? How do we approach that?
It's really important, and I think it's something that it's definitely what we need to apply going forward, and it is a learning. We actually have a partnership with NHS Confed that's just happened this year, and part of that is to address health inequalities, and particularly we have just started a project in North to East London, ICB, which is looking actually at Asian and Black communities and how we can best make sure that they are accessing and coming forward for risk assessment for cardiovascular disease. So that's really, again, a pilot to look at how we can best do that, with the intention we would apply that method, those ways of working, to all of our projects going forward.
Fantastic. And tell us a bit about you. Tell us about your journey. How did you get into healthcare? You know, what's been your sort of inspiration?
Yeah. So I was a scientist, molecular biologist, and then went into pharma. So I've worked at several big pharma companies and have been at AZ for just about 2 years. I particularly work in oncology, and I'm really inspired by our mission to eliminate cancer as a cause of death. That's our big, bold ambition. And part of that is how we partner best with the health system to make sure that patients come forward and are diagnosed as early as possible to make sure that they have the best possible chance of getting a treatment.
And looking at some of the topics we've got here, there's a diverse range of subjects covered, at different stages, different presentations throughout today. Is there anything, if we look forward, say 5 years, is there any sort of topics in the future you would like to be sort of being discussed or being brought up in the future?
Yeah, I think we've heard obviously a lot about AI and the revolution of data today and this year. In fact, I would love if in 5 years we were really seeing like how that has transformed things. We weren't talking about the what ifs. It was like, no, this has really changed, and this has really helped to revolutionise the way that patients experience care and the system flows, really. So I'd love to be sitting here in 5 years with like real scaled examples of how that's changed.
And in terms of AI, like what's your personal adaptation of it? Do you love it? Have you taken it on board? Are you still a bit sort of standoffish? What's your sort of personal view and reaction to it?
Well, I'd like to call myself an early adopter.
Okay.
Whether that's true, I don't know. That can be judged by an expert. But I do think it obviously has to have an appropriate place, particularly when it comes to healthcare, and there has to be the right regulation in place, and there has to be the right context for that. But it could really accelerate some of the things that are repeated, that we have to do multiple times. I think it really does have the potential to change how we do things in healthcare, in all of the systems and processes that we experience in our lives. So I'm optimistic that it can make a really positive difference, actually.
Quite excited about it then for the future, and what it can help us all do, really, and just improve lives. In terms of the show, have you had any time to go around the show so far today?
Yes, I have. So I've walked around and looked at many of the stands and talked to a lot of industry colleagues from different tech companies. Particularly, I always really enjoy finding out what's the newest AI solution that's happening, but particularly interesting to see what's happening with data and how we could better use data, again, across multiple different organisations to really better understand patients, what they need, and when they need it. I also went into some of the sessions, and again, you hear consistently this message of, yes, there are challenges, there are things that need to be solved, but also there's this joint will across the board, whatever the job title is of the person in the seat, that actually we just want to make things better. We want to work together to solve some of those challenges.
Loving it. I say it's been a real sort of key theme to everyone I spoke to about today. Everyone just getting on board, moving in the same direction, like you say, the same overall goal. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. Lucy, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for joining us in the studio, and I hope your talk, I believe it's 1:45 today.
It is.
Hopefully you're looking forward to that, and I hope it all goes fantastically.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Lucy George, Head of Business Innovation from AstraZeneca UK. Stay tuned, lots more content coming your way.